It's a beautiful breezy night. And I thought I would share with you the 3 books that I currently have on rotation. So this is something that, I don't know, I never planned to do this, but this is how I read. I don't just read one thing. I have a little pile, and I go back and forth based on what I feel like. Sometimes it's 1 book for 3 or 4 months. Sometimes it's 3 books that get rotated in a week. And that, for me, is a great way of consuming books. If you are not a reader but would like to be a reader, my advice to you would be don't force anything. If you start reading something and if it's boring or it's just not interesting, just put it aside. Pick up another book. Try something else until you find something that really speaks to you. That's how you develop your own taste, I think, in books. I find that I am not really intrigued at all by fiction. I used to read a lot of fiction when I was a kid, but now it's kind of all nonfiction. So currently, the pile has 3 books, and they're all very different, but I am loving all of them. I'm reading The Diary of Virginia Woolf. I have read other diaries of hers, diaries from when she was very young, diaries from when she was sort of older, and this is kind of in the middle. The fascinating thing about this diary is that it takes place during the First World War. And there's so much in here. There's so much fascinating information about just observances about what's happening in London during the war, not being able to buy chocolate, Virginia and her husband Leonard waking up in the middle of the night and having to leave their bedrooms with their quilts and go into the kitchen and sleep on the table or on the floor with the servants whenever the moon is becoming more full, because around the full moon there are bombs being dropped. There's bombing, and I thought it was so fascinating that while that took place, because there was light to see by with the moon. So there's such wonderful things in here. It's also extremely entertaining because Virginia Woolf was a huge snob, and she does not hold back about what she thinks about every single person that she meets. And she's recording everything in here: who she met, what they were wearing, how they spoke, how they walked, how they sat. And I find that fascinating. There's also stuff in here. The thing that I've taken away from this that I've actually been applying to myself is analyzing your own thoughts and being kind of critical about your own thoughts. You know, it's very interesting to read how cultured she is in the writing world, but how insecure she is about her physical appearance. She was very insecure about how she dressed and very self-conscious. And she talks about like walking into a room at someone else's house for dinner in her new blue dress, and just feeling so self-conscious about it that she just had to wait for somebody else to walk into the room first and sort of follow close behind them. There's just fascinating things like that. And then there's other little tidbits of just interesting things about the actual time period. The entry from July the 10th, 1919. Last night I dined at the Savoy grill room with Clive, her brother-in-law. It is long since eating a meal was such a serious business to me. Long since I had taken part in the great ceremony of dinner with others believing in it, assisting at it, and dressing for it. This is a time when, like, a man would wear a tailcoat and a top hat to dinner. Fish and meat and melon and ices have come to their own again. Clive parted with a good deal of paper money. His appearance never, even now, is altogether smart or worldly. His shoulders are not broad enough, and then his hair. But he was dressed, carried a black cane, and wore a silk hat. Oddly enough, my mind went back to my first sight of him years ago. He looked young and had the unself-assured manner of one not used to things, only pretending use. This ceremony of eating takes so long that it was 9 by the time we finished, and the light through the enormous window dusky and almost lamplit. He pointed out to me Picasso and Madame Picasso making off for the ballet, and behind us sat the little ivory figure of Lopakova's husband. So Picasso was in town. I'm not saying anything about liking Picasso. I actually hate Picasso. I think he was an awful human being. So, but it's just interesting to read that night what happened. This is just a kind of time travel for me, reading this journal. The second book that I have had on my rotation for quite a while is this wonderful little book called Sketching from Square One to Trafalgar Square by Richard E. Scott. And I'm always looking at books about drawing and painting. I'm always giving books a try. And I have to say that for anyone out there that's intrigued by drawing and sketching but maybe intimidated by it, this is a fantastic book because it is so clear and simple in its layout that I feel it makes it very approachable. The book is divided into sections. The main section that I think is wonderful is kind of at the beginning, how to see, how to look at things, how to look at things in real life, how to simplify what you're looking at, how to actually not be overwhelmed, and then the tools to actually put something down on paper in an accurate way. So what I've been doing with this book, when I got this book, I actually got a little sketchbook, and I decided, because I decided I would go through this book and do the exercises in a specifically designated sketchbook, because the book is full of exercises. And the early exercises are very fun. They're simple, but they're fun and they're effective. It's like, draw a triangle. Now draw another triangle. Now compare the two. So I'm not going to go into too much detail with this, but it's just a great book. Okay, so as I said, sometimes I don't feel like sketching. I don't feel like drawing in my leisure time. So I'm just escaping to 1918 and not drawing at all for quite a while. And then it'll be a whole 2 weeks of drawing every single day. The third book actually came to me through a viewer, because we put out a video of my favorite objects at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and I showed you my favorite Chola bronzes in the collection, these Indian statues. Someone commented in that video and said that if I was intrigued by these bronzes, I should watch another video on YouTube, a lecture by a professor of Indian art here in New York, Dr. Vidya Dehejia. And the person commenting actually included a link. So I clicked on the link, and it was a 2-hour lecture, and I watched it and loved it. It was fascinating. I found out from her lecture that she actually wrote a book about the same subject, and I got the book. This is the book, The Thief Who Stole My Heart. So the title of this book actually comes from a very sacred group of songs from the Hindu canon, written in Tamil in the 600s, the Thevaram. Thevaram are hymns in praise of Lord Shiva. And the very first Thevaram has a refrain that repeats over and over, "You are the thief who stole my heart," because the poet is so in love with the god Shiva. So that's where the title comes from. I thought I was going to be just reading about bronzes in this book, but I am learning so much about the culture in South India between the years 855 and 1280. And that was the period that the Cholas ruled South India. It's fascinating, and I have a personal connection to this because of where my family comes from, I have to say that if you feel any connection to your ancestry, it is a wonderful thing to start reading about the ancients to which you have a connecting thread. It adds a perspective to your life that I really feel does carry through to your everyday. I'll tell you a little story. My sister is sort of the torch bearer now in my family after my mom passed away for religious ceremonies. It's usually the matriarch that upholds household ceremonies. And with my mom being gone, whenever there's something significant that we have to do as a family, my older sister will call the priest and arrange for that to take place in her house. And she was telling me that recently, after a certain ceremony, she had a chembu. And a chembu is a brass water jug, a very traditional brass water jug in which a coconut is placed to signify the sacred rivers of India. And that chembu with the coconut is placed on the ground with all the other religious things that we use for a ceremony. So she said, the next day, everyone was gone, and I was cleaning up, and I realized, there was water in the chembu, and I thought instead of just throwing it down the sink, I'll water the plants with it. And she was saying that when she watered her houseplants with the water from this chembu, she felt something. She felt something that was just a physical thing of holding this beautiful ancient shape of a water jug and pouring the water from it. And she said it poured so beautifully out of this thing that she realized, why am I using my ugly plastic watering can when I can be just watering the plants with a chembu? And she felt this connection to an ancient past. And I loved hearing that. So reading about the material culture and the philosophical culture at the time that these statues were made is just, it's like eating a very nourishing meal to me. I want to read you the line from where the title of this book comes from. This is in Tamil. Podudaya Shevian Videyeri or Tur Venmadishuri Kadudaya Shurlai Podi Pusi Yen Nullam Cover Calvin. He wears an earring in one ear, riding on his bull, crowned with a pure white crescent moon, his body smeared with ash from the burning ground. He is the thief who stole my heart. These are my 3 books that I love so much. I love reading. I usually get into bed and have my little lamp on and then read just a few lines before my eyes start closing. And it's a wonderful way to go to bed. All the devices are turned off because they have to go to sleep too, really turned off. And whether it's just reminiscences of someone else's day or something factual or the tale from another time, that to me is just such a wonderful way of leaving the day and going away into the world of sleep. Tell me now, and I won't ask again. Will you still love me tomorrow? Tonight, through words unspoken. Anyways, stop. So I thought that yesterday's video was done, locked and loaded, and then today it was a beautiful sunny day. There was a breeze, and it's going to be rainy for the next few days, so carpe diem. I decided to get on my bike and go out, and I took this with me. I'm coming to the very end, and I read a part of it that pushed me to add an addendum to yesterday's video. At the end of Virginia Woolf's journal, which I do not recommend. This is not a I'm not sharing this with you because I recommend that people read this. I do not recommend this at all. This is very niche. This is very specific to me and what I'm interested in. This is not easy, pleasant, amusing reading at all. But there are some gems in here that I can parlay into, I think, what I share with you on a regular basis. So at the end of this volume, she writes, I have no time to fill this page since I must read my review book, read Logan's stories, write a letter or two, and I've let the time since tea slip. I began reading the first volume of my diary and see that its second anniversary is now reached, so she had been keeping her journal regularly at this point for 2 years. I don't think that the first volume makes such good reading as the last, the proof that all writing, even this unpremeditated scribbling, has its form, which one learns. Is it worth going on with? The trouble is that if one goes on a year or more, one will feel bound on that account to continue. I wonder why I do it. Partly, I think, from my old sense of the race of time. And then, quote, time's winged chariot hurrying near. Does it stay it? I wonder why I do it, she asks. Well, this was written in 1919, and over 100 years later, as a reader of almost everything she wrote, I understand why she did it. I know that Virginia Woolf actually went through her previous journals, reread them, and then pulled from actual things that she observed, and she put those things into her works of fiction. Philosophical things and very seemingly trivial physical things. Like I believe there's a part in one of her books where she mentions how fascinating it was to see how the hands can take a button and slip them into a buttonhole without even looking at them. In her seemingly simple writing, she says so much about the mind, about the world, about our interactions with each other, without beating us over the head with it. And so much of that comes from her journals, because Virginia Woolf looked and observed constantly. She was always watching. She was always looking. And that's actually something that has a common thread with this book. Are you looking? Are you seeing? Are you watching? And are you processing what you're seeing? If you sit today for half an hour in public and you look around you, you will see what most people are doing. And I'm not going to even say what that is, because the irony is that's the medium in which I'm speaking to you. But what comes from observing at a length of time without any interruption? I believe something profound comes from observing, something that is related to introspection. Although you're looking outwardly at what's happening around you, I do believe you are learning about yourself. And that is so much a part of reading her journal. In observing others, she learns about herself. When I read that, I thought about this video. And I asked myself, well, what is the thesis of this video? And the thesis was sort of understated in what I had relayed yesterday. Books take effort to produce. There are more than one person's input in all of these books. Bringing these ideas in these words to a physical, tactile page takes work, takes vetting, takes editing. And that is so much more a larger process than just posting something on the internet or to social media. You should not believe or listen to everything you hear, including this. I want you to think, if the most flattering thing from the feedback that I get from you is if I have made you think about something. I think that that is the thesis of this video, that these books have made my mind stretch. It's like an exercise. It's actually pushed the limits of my mind to places that are sometimes uncomfortable, to places that where I might not agree with what I read on the page, but they make me think beyond my own introspective thoughts. And by nature, that expands what I understand and what I believe. And I truly want that for everyone. You and I might not agree on certain things, but if what I'm saying to you pushes you to think beyond what you're normally thinking about, that really is the biggest honor for me. So that's the addendum that I had to add after reading today's passage from Ms. Woolf. I know how this story ends. I know how her story ends. She ended her life by her own doing. She walked into the River Ouse with large rocks in the pockets of her coat. And whether or not you think that's okay or not okay, the fact is that is how it ends. So I'm reading all of this fully knowing where it leads. And I have an appreciation for that, and an appreciation is the only word that I can use. Our lives are so, they feel so abstract sometimes. Making sense of how an average Tuesday, which is the day that it is today, fits into the grand scheme of things of 60 years, 80 years, 90 years, if you're lucky. It can seem so trivial, and yet Virginia Woolf has really taught me that an average Tuesday, one single day in one person's life, can fully summarize what that life means and what it's all about. So, as I said, this is not a book that I recommend, but the core of it is something that I'm honored to share with you. The idea of taking your mind and stretching it. That's my addendum.